If I ask you, what are you? You are most likely to answer you are human. But would you ever consider answering that you are a mammalian amniotic tetrapodal sarcopterygian osteichthyrian glottostomal vertebrate cranial chordate? Yeah, it's all hard to remember and you probably don't know about this. Hence, today we will be introducing you to the phylum Chordata. What is phylum Chordata? An organism possesses a structure called a notochord at some part of its development. Chordates also have a complete digestive system. A bony or cartilaginous endoskeleton is usually present.
Chordata. These are bilaterally symmetrical, triploblastic, and coelomate with the organ system level of the organism. They possess a post-anal tail and a closed circulatory system.
Here we have the outline classification of phylum Chordata, which is then divided into two groups, the Acrania, also known as Protochordata or the lower chordata, and the group Craniata, sometimes called Euchordata or higher chordata. The group Acrania or Protochordata are all marine, small, primitive, or lower chordates. They are no cranium jaws, vertebral column, paired appendages, and there are about 2,000 species. The Acrania is divided into three subphyla, the Hemichordata, Eurochordata, and the Cephalochordata. First, we will be tackling the subphylum Hemichordata. Hemichordata comes from the Greek word hemi, which means half, and chorde, which means cord. The hemichordates have body divided into three regions, the proboscis, the collar, and the trunk. Notochord doubtful, short, confined to proboscis, and non-homologous with that of chordates. The Hemichordata is then divided into three classes, the Enteropneusta, the Pterobranchia, and the Planktopspheroidea. The Enteropneusta has characteristics that has body large and worm-like, gill slits numerous and paired, alimentary canal straight, acorn or tongue worms. Enteropneus includes 3 families, 15 genera, and 70 species. Enteropneusta comes from the Greek word enteron, which means gut, and neustos, which means breed. The animal example of Enteropneusta is the Balonoglusos gigas. It is an ocean-dwelling acorn worm, Enteropneusta genus of zoological importance because being a hemichordate, it is an evolutionary link between invertebrates and vertebrates. So here is an example. So the taxonomy of the Balonoglusos gigas is that its order is Enteropneusta, the family Tichordae, and genus Balonoglusos and species Balonoglusos giga. Next we have is the class Pterobranchia. Pterobranchia comes from the Greek word pteron, which means feather, and branchion, which means gill. It has a body small and compact, gill slits, one pair or none, never U-shape, alimentary canal U-shape, and pterobranchs include 2 orders, 3 genera, and 20 species. An example of a Pterobranchia is the Cephalodiscus hodgsoni. The Cephalodiscus hodgsoni is a sessile hemichordate belonging to the order Cephalodicidae. So here is a picture of the Cephalodiscus hodgsoni. The taxonomy of such animal is that its order is under the Cephalodicidae, its family is under the Cephalodicidae, and the genus Cephalodiscus and species Cephalodiscus hodgsoni. And last of the 3 classes of the Hemichordata is the Planktopspheroidea. The characteristic of the class is that it is transparent, round, and specialized tornarial larva possessing extensively branched ciliary bands. It also has alimentary canal L-shape, and Planktosphera pelagica is a representative of this class. This form is supposed to be specialized tomarial larva of some unknown hemichordate. So an example we have is the Planktosphera pelagica. The species is known only by its free-swimming larvae. The larvae are tornarial larvae, similar to those of the closely related Enteropneusta, which possess a ciliated band to capture food particles. Planktosphera pelagica is unique in possessing mucus-secreting glands around the ciliated band. Here is the example of a Planktosphera pelagica. The taxonomy order of such animal is under the Entermusta and the family Entermusta incertae sedis and the genus Planktosphera. Its species is Planktosphera pelagica.
Urochordata. Chordata has the body of the adult, is covered by a tunic, hence named tunicata. The tunic is composed of a protein tunicin and a polysaccharide similar to plant cellulose. Urochordata comes from the Greek word ura, or means a tail, and chorda comes from the Latin word means cord. Notochord and nerve cord entail only in minute free-swimming tadpole larva. Adult sac-like covered with tunic, often transparent, usually no notochord, nerve cord reduced to ganglion, no coelom, segmentation, or nephridia. When solitary tunicates are disturbed, they squirt out jets of water, earning their nickname sea squirts. Urochordata has three classes. One of them is larvaceans. Larvaceans or appendicularia. Larvacia are tiny marine planktonic urochordates found around the globe. They received their name because adults retain larval characteristics. The general resemblance of adult larvaceans to ascidian tadpoles suggests that they may be mutinous. The trunk holds major body organs and the tail is thin and flat. Muscle bands act on notochord to produce movement. All species, except one, are monoecious and most of these are protandrous. One example of larvaceans is the Oikoplura dioica. It is a species of small pelagic tunicate found in the surface of waters and most of the world's oceans. It is used as a model organism in research into developmental biology. Oikoplura dioica is a bioluminescent species. Here is the example of Oikoplura dioica. Its taxonomy is in order Copilata, family Oikopluridae, genus Oikoplura, species Oikoplura dioica. Second Urochordata class is the Thaliasians. These are free-living pelagic urochordates. Their tunic is transparent and thin. Thalasia possess encircling circumferential bands of muscles within the walls of the test. Incurrent and excurrent sequence are present at opposite end of the body. One example of Thalassians is the Salpa maxima, also known as sea grape, is a barrel-shaped planktic tunicate. It moves by contracting, thereby pumping water through its gelatinous body, one of the most efficient examples of jet propulsion in the animal kingdom. Here is the image of Salpa maxima. Its taxonomy is in order Salpida, family Salpidae, genus Salpa, and Salpa maxima. The last class of Urochordata is the Ascidians. Ascidians, comprising mostly brightly colored aquatic animals. Adults are sessile, but larvae are planktonic and do not feed. In adult form, the nervous system turns into ganglion. Adults have sac-like bodies covered by tunic. One example of Ascidians is the Sciona intestinalis. Sciona intestinalis is an ascidian, a tunicate with very soft tunic. Its Latin name literally means pillar of intestines, referring to the fact that its body is a soft, translucent column-like structure, resembling a mass of intestines sprouting from a rock. It is a globally distributed cosmopolitan species. Its taxonomy is in order Enterogona, suborder Plebobranchia, family Scionidae, genus Sciona, species Sciona intestinalis.
And the last of the group Acrania is the subphylum Cephalochordata, or also known as Bronchiostoma. It is marine, widely distributed in shallow waters, mostly sedentary and buried with only anterior body end projecting above bottom sun. Body has a trunk and tail, head lucky, exoskeleton absent, and notochord and nerve cord present throughout life along entire length of body. It includes one class, one family, two genera, and 30 species. Cephalochordata comes from the Greek word kephale, which means head, and from the Latin word chorda, which means cord. Under Cephalochordata is one class, the Leptocardiae. The characteristic of such class is that the lancelets, also known as Amphioxy or its singular form Amphioxus, consists of about 30 to 35 species of fish-like benthic filter-feeding chordates in the order Amphioxiformes. Lancelets closely resemble and are believed to be related to 530 million-year-old Picaya, fossils of which are known from the Burgess shale. The animal example of the Leptocardiae is the Bronchiostoma lanceolatum. The European lancet or Mediterranean Amphioxus is a lancet in the subphylum Cephalochordata. It is a marine invertebrate with a notochord but no backbone and is used as a model organism to study the evolutionary development of vertebrates. Here is an image of the Bronchiostoma lanceolatum. The taxonomy of Bronchiostoma lanceolatum is that its order is Amphioxiformes, family Bronchiostomatidae, genus Bronchiostoma, and species Bronchiostoma lanceolatum. Next, we have the group Craniata or Euchordata. It is best described as chordates that have a brain case, also called a cranium or a skull, and a mandible or jawbone and other facial bones. Under the Craniata is the subphylum Vertebrata. From the Latin word vertebratus, which means backbone. Notochord supplemented or replaced by a vertebral column or backbone consisting of overlapping vertebrae. Body divisible into head, neck, trunk, and tail. It is usually dioecious. Vertebrata is the largest chordate subphylum, including about 45,000 species. Under subphylum Vertebrata are the division Agnatha and the division Gnathostomata. The division Agnatha comes from the Greek word a or nut and gnathos, which means jaw. It is a lawless, fish-like vertebrate without true jaws and paired limbs. First class of the division Agnatha is the Ostracodermi. Its characteristic includes several extinct orders of ancient primitive, heavily armored Paleozoic world's first vertebrates, collectively called the Ostracoderms. It comes from the Greek word ostrakon, which means shell, and derma, which means skin. An example of such animal is the Theraspis. The Theraspis had a protective armored plating covering the front of its body. Though lacking fins other than its lobe tail, it is thought to have been a good swimmer thanks to stiff wing-like protrusions derived from the armored plates over its gills. Here is an image of the Theraspis. The Theraspis is under the order Theraspidiformes, the family Theraspididae, and the genus Theraspis and species Cephalaspis rostrata. Next we have is the class Cyclostomata. Cyclostomata comes from the Greek word cyclos, which means circular, and stoma, which means mouth. It is a body eel-like, long, cylindrical skin, smooth, without scales, jaws, and lateral fins. Mouth rounded and suctorial. Gills 5 to 16 pairs. Heart 2-chambered. Parasites and scavengers about 50 species. An example of such class is the sea lamprey. The sea lamprey has an eel-like body without paired fins. Its mouth is jawless, round and sucker-like, and as wide or wider than the head. Sharp teeth are arranged in many concentric circular rows. Here is an image of the sea lamprey. Sea lamprey is under the order Petromyzontiformes and under the family Petromyzontidae and genus Petromyzon, and under the species Petromyzon marinus. Then we have the second division, also known as the Gnathostomatata, from the Greek word gnathos, which means jaw, and stoma, which means mouth. They are jawed vertebrates having true jaws and paired limbs. The division Gnathostomata has two superclass, the Pisces and the Tetrapoda. Under the division Gnathostomata is the superclass Pisces, which comes from the Latin word piscis, or which means fish. They are fish or fish-like aquatic forms with paired as well as median fins, gills, and scaly skin. Under the superclass Pisces, we have three classes: the Placodermi, which has a characteristic of several extinct orders of primitive earliest jawed fishes of Paleozoic with bony heads, head shields, placoderms, a full-sized functional gill arc presides hired arc. An example of such animal is the Climacius. Climacius was an active swimmer, judging from its powerful caudal fin and abundant stabilizing fins, and probably preyed on other fish and crustaceans. Its lower jaw was lined with sharp teeth, which were replaced when worn, but the upper jaw had no teeth. It had large eyes, suggesting that it hunted by sight. Here is an image of the Climacius. The taxonomy of such animal is that it is under the order Acanthidae, the family Diplacanthidae, and the genus Climacius and species Climacius reticulatus. Next of the superclass Pisces is the class Chondrichthyes. The characteristic of this is that they are mostly marine, cartilaginous endoskeleton, skin with minute placoid scales, gill slits not covered with operculum, mouth and two nostrils ventral, males with claspers, cartilaginous fishes, and there are approximately 600 species. The Chondrichthyes comes from the Greek word chondros, which means cartilage, and ichthyes, which means fish. An example of such animal is the spade-nosed shark. They are found on rocky substrates of coastal waters and lower reaches of tropical rivers. It is uncertain, however, if this species can live in perfectly fresh water for extended periods. They form large schools, feed on small bony fishes, shrimps, and cuttlefish. Here is an image of the spade-nosed shark. This animal is under the order Cariniformes, under the family Carcarinidae, and the genus Coliodon and species Coliodon laticaudus. And last of the superclass Pisces is the Osteothyes. It comes from the Greek word ostion, which means bone, and ichthyes, which means fish. They are freshwater and marine bony endoskeleton having skin various types of scales, which include cycloid and ctenoid, other than placoid. Gill slits covered with operculum, males with claspers, bony fishes, and there are approximately 20,000 species of Osteothyes. An example of such animal is the lion seahorse. The lion seahorse was first named Hippocampus erectus by George Perry in 1810. Hippocampus translates into horse or sea monster. In ancient Greek, the Hippocampus erectus species can be found in myriad colors, from grays and blacks to reds, greens, and oranges. It swims in an erect position and uses its dorsal and pectoral fins for guidance while swimming. Here is an example of a lion seahorse. The lion seahorse is under the order Cygnathiformes and the family Cygnathidae, and also it is under the genus Hippocampus and under the species Hippocampus erectus.
So under the division of Gnatostomata is the superclass Tetrapoda. Tetrapoda comes from the Greek word tetra, means four, podos means foot. Land vertebrates with two pairs of pentadactyl limbs, fortified skin with lungs. Under the tetrapoda is the amphibia. Amphibia comes from the Greek word amphi, means both, Bios means life. Larval stage is usually aquatic and breathed by gills. Adults are typically terrestrial and respire by lungs. Living forms with moist glandular skin, no external scales. Typically two pairs of limbs, nostrils connecting with mouth cavity, heart three-chambered amphibians, and approximately 2,500 species. Examples: the rana or frog, bufo or toad, ambystoma or salamander. One example of amphibia is the common frog. The common frog or grass frog, Rana temporaria, is a semi-aquatic amphibian of the family Ranidae. Common frogs metamorphose through three distinct developmental life stages: aquatic larva, terrestrial, juvenile, and adult. They have corpulent bodies with a rounded snout, webbed feet, and long hind legs, adapted for swimming in water and hopping on land. So here is the image of the common frog. And in taxonomy, order Phanura, family Ranidae, genus Rana, species Rana temporaria. Still under the tetrapoda is the Reptilia. So Reptilia comes from the Latin word reptilis, means covering. It is terrestrial and aquatic tetrapods. Skin dry covered by ectodermal horny scales of scutes. Limbs typically 4, each with 5 clawed toes. Skeleton bony, heart incompletely 4-chambered, cold-blooded, respiration by lungs, and approximately 7,000 species. And one example of the Reptilia is the common house gecko. Hemidactylus frenatus is a small cryptic lizard species native to Southeast Asia that has been accidentally introduced to many tropical and subtropical places around the world via cargo shipments and as commercial feeder food for zoo and pet animals. The main ecological impacts of Hemidactylus frenatus are likely to be consumption of native insects and spiders. And here is the image of the common house gecko. And its taxonomy is the orders Squamata, belong in the family Geckonidae, genus Hemidactylus, and species Hemidactylus frenatus. Another one under the superclass Tetrapoda is the aves. Aves comes from the Latin word avis, which means bird. Its body covered with feathers, 4 limbs modified as wings usually adapted for flight, hind limbs for walking, perching, or swimming, no teeth in beak, heart 4-chambered, lungs compact with air sacs, warm-blooded, birds, and about 9,000 species. One example of the aves is the house sparrow. The house sparrow is a stout, stocky sparrow with shorter legs and a thicker bill than indigenous American sparrows. Members of both sexes are brown-backed with black streaks throughout this area. Its underside is pale buff. Males have white cheeks and a black beam, while females do not. Here is the image of the house sparrow. So the taxonomy of the house sparrow is in order Passeriformes, family Passeridae, genus Passer, and species Passer domesticus. Another one under the superclass Tetrapoda is the Mammalia. So Mammalia comes from the Latin word mamma, which means breast. Body usually covered with hair, skin with various glands, female with mammary glands which secrete milk for suckling the young. Heart 4-chambered, warm-blooded air-breathing vertebrates. Mammals approximately 4,500 species. One common example of Mammalia is the humans. The name Homo sapiens was applied in 1758 by the father of modern biological classification, Carunus linnaeus, it had long been known that human beings physically resemble the primates more closely than any other known living organisms, but at the same time, it was a daring act to classify human beings within the same framework used for the rest of nature. Linnaeus concerned exclusively with similarities in bodily structure, faced only the problem of distinguishing Homo sapiens from apes, gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans, and gibbons, which differ from humans in numerous bodily as well as cognitive features. So here is the image of the humans. Its taxonomy is in order Primates, family Hominidae, genus Homo, species Homo sapiens. So here is the contrasting characters of superclass Pisces and Tetrapoda. In superclass Pisces, it is exclusively aquatic gnathostome vertebrates, while in superclass 2 Tetrapoda, it is aquatic or terrestrial, some arboreal and aerial. In superclass 1 Pisces, it has paired limbs, if present as fins, and in superclass 2 Tetrapoda, paired pentadactyl limbs present. Median fins present in Pisces and median fins absent in Tetrapoda. Skin usually moist and scaly in superclass 1 Pisces, and skin usually dry, not cormified, without scales in superclass 2 Tetrapoda. By respiration, aquatic by gills. In Pisces, it has respiration aquatic by gills. In superclass 2 Tetrapoda, its respiration is aerial by lungs. In superclass 1 Pisces, its sense organs functional in water. And in superclass 2 Tetrapoda, its sense organs function in air. And here is the contrasting characters of Agnatha and Gnathostomata. In Division 1 Agnatha, it has true jaws absent, and in Division 2 Gnathostomata, it has true jaws present. In Division 1 Agnatha, it has paired appendages absent, and in Division 2 Gnathostomata has paired appendages pectoral and pelvic present. In Division 1 Agnatha, it has internal ear with two semicircular canals, and in Division 2 Gnathostomata has an internal ear with three semicircular canals. In Division 1 Agnatha, it is a notochord persistent in adults, and in Division 2 Gnathostomata, it has a notochord persist or replaced by vertebrae.
And lastly is contrasting characters of Protochordata and Euchordata. On Group A, or the Crania, it exclusively marine and small-sized chordates, while on Group B, or the Craniata, they are usually aquatic or terrestrial, mostly large-sized vertebrates. Furthermore, on the Crania, they have appendages, head, and exoskeleton absent, while on Craniata, they usually have two pairs of appendages, well-developed head and exoskeleton present. On the crania, the cellum is intersolic, arising from embryonic archenteron, while on Craniata, the cellum is schizolic, arising by splitting mesoderm. Crania are notochord persistent. They have skull, cranium, and vertebral column absent, while on Craniata, the notochord covered or replaced by vertebral column. The skull and cranium is well developed. On Protochordata, pharynx having permanent gill slits or gill cliffs, and the endostyle is present, while on Euchordata, the pharyngeal gill slits or gill cliffs persist or disappear, and the endostyle is absent. On Acrania, heart without chambers when present, and red blood corpuscles or the RBCs are absent in blood, while on Craniata, the heart made of 2, 3, or 4 chambers, blood contains RBCs. On Acrania, the kidneys are protonephridia, while on Craniata, the kidneys are meso or metonephridia. On Acrania, the sexes separate or united, while reproduction is asexual as well as sexual, and the gonadocs are usually absent. On the other hand, on Craniata, the sexes are separate. Only sexual reproduction and gonadocs are always present. And lastly, on Protochordata, the development indirect with a free-swimming larval stage, while on Euchordata, the development indirect or direct with or without a larval stage. So, so that is the end of our videos. Thank you. And now, if I were to ask you again, what are you? What would you answer? Since you have now seen this video, you could now say that you are a mammalian amniotic tetrapodal sarcopterygian osteichthyan nanostomal vertebrate cranial chordate. That is all. See you on our next topic. Bye!